Whatever life holds in store for me, I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility. This is my gift, my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
Back. Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast. We haven't recorded a podcast it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks.
Back in the seat. I'm feeling good. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling tired. But you know what? I'm here. Let's get it done.
All right, let's fucking punch the clock there, Larry the Cable Guy. Today's episode is about Spider-Man.
Spider-Man!
From 2002. Also known as Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Also known as the Spider-Man that brought us together right after 9/11. You thought we wouldn't talk about 9/11 on this podcast, but no chance. It's 2002. We're way too close.
It hasn't even been 2 minutes yet. I heard he's talking about 9/11.
They had to rip all the posters down that had the World Trade Center in his eyes.
I think the original, actual movie poster had the Trade Centers in the background.
Yes, it's a close-up on his face, and the World Trade Center is reflected in his eyes. And I think there's another image that was him making a big web between the World Trade Centers.
I'm sure there's a conspiracy theory about that somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure there's some YouTube channel with 100,000 views on every video that's further proof, because if the Illuminati exists, what they're going to do is wag their ass in front of your face and
put it in your Spider-Man poster.
Yeah. It's always the fucking Da Vinci Code bullshit or National Treasure bullshit where the secrets are right in front of your eyes. You just got to open them, bro.
I mean, The Simpsons predicted it. Terminator 2 predicted it. It's possible, man.
All right, well, Kaylin, I think this movie has a close place in your heart. Am I wrong? I remember you telling me a story of this being a very core memory to your childhood.
Yes. So, 2002. What month did this come out?
Couldn't tell you. Summer, I think. Probably September.
Okay. I remember, and this is going to blow some of you kids' minds, but my dad came home, threw down a newspaper on the table, and there was a couple theater openings for Star Wars Attack of the Clones and Spider-Man. And he was like, okay, April. Oh, yeah, so it was probably around my birthday. And I think this is why he wanted to take me out. He was like, okay, pick one. And I was like, Spider-Man, obviously. I already knew Attack of the Clones was going to be shit.
I already knew the prequels were trash.
I knew before it was cool, But, yeah, we went to go see Spider-Man. And I will say it blew my young mind watching that in theaters. I don't think I'd ever seen anything remotely close to what Spider-Man was like, seeing that on the big screen. And it's funny because now that I watch this as an adult, I can actually understand what people are talking about in the film and actually kind of get more invested in the characters. And then I also actually realize how campy this shit is, but in a good way. It doesn't take away from the experience. I think it really adds on to the overall feel of these films. I don't know if you would agree with me on that.
There's certainly it's a very, what do they call it, the Silver Age or the Golden Age or whatever. We're 20 years into the MCU. This is Marvel May. This is part of a theme. We're going to do some newer Marvel movies in our next episode. But in the newer Marvel movies, all the stakes are always early on it was a little lower stakes, but as we move on, it's just a new apocalyptic threat, one after the other, with some
who's going to destroy the universe or the world.
And this is back to Richard Donner's Superman, Golden Age comics or whatever. The stakes are I have all these kids in a cable car in one hand and have your girlfriend in the other.
Choose, Spider-Man.
It's very, like you said, campy. It has that, it's a charming quality, I think, especially today when I'm like kind of tired. Like I watched Ant-Man Quantumania, which is another new Marvel movie with a new
Marvel nightmare
super villain, and it's like, it was, as a contrast, it's interesting just it just feels more personal. Like I think we've lost a little bit with the newer ones where it's like we're getting more grounded in the reality of like this Spider-Man series is really all about, all three of these movies is the personal stakes of Peter Parker and not some big overarching like plot that they're taking
and
care
the
of.
Friendly neighborhood aspect as well, because I mean that's the whole point of Spider-Man. He's not a globe-trotting superhero. He sticks to his neighborhoods in New York and fights robbers, bank robbers, and weird guys who wear green masks.
And science, mad scientist whose experiments go wrong.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's real, I think Golden Age or Silver Age. I don't know which one is correct, but
I feel like it's Golden Age. It kind of reminds me of Christopher Reeve's Superman, where it's like he's flying around, or in this case, swinging around, and people are like, it's Spider-Man, or, it's Superman. Like, everybody's excited when he comes and saves the day. But the thing about Spider-Man that's interesting is because there's another aspect of it, his character, where it's like some people don't like him at all. Especially J. Jonah Jameson, who's trying to twist the narrative in the media to make Spider-Man seem like a criminal. So you have that aspect. And then what's I think is the best aspects about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies is like they really focus on the character of Peter Parker and like his journey and his like coming of age and like figuring out what kind of hero he wants to be, because at the same time he still wants to live a normal life and he wants to get the girl, wants to settle down, wants to get a job. And so he's got to balance these two things out of being a hero and being an everyday guy,
And that's another thing that Marvel, at the end of Iron Man basically started throwing out the window. The
secret identity.
The secret dual life aspect of being a superhero. That's kind of completely out the window. Actually, the new Spider-Man still has it, but like that's also slowly...
Well, they retconned it completely at the end of the newer trilogy, where it's like, we wiped everybody's minds now. And
with magic.
Now it can go back to being friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
I think there's maybe a little historical context for this movie is important, because it really, I think, solidified how much of a cash cow superhero movies could be and have led to this. We're really like 20 years deep in like a real like surge of superhero movies. Superhero movies never really died. There was times where they waned. They really started, I believe, with like the 80s. The 80s Superman. We get Tim
Even
Burton's.
Those weren't as like huge though. I think what really took off was the Tim Burton's Batman series.
The Tim Burton's Batman series. There's a little bit of a low in the early 90s where there's lots of missteps, like that Shaquille O'Neal superhero movie that was. Steel.
Yeah. I think that's a Superman variant.
Maybe. And there's like a little bit of a waning there, and then as the Batman and Robin and those movies aren't quite as good, and then we're coming back with Blade, and then right in like 2001, 2002, we get the original X-Men, and then we get Spider-Man.
2000 was the original X-Men.
And then a couple years later, we get Spider-Man, and those two movies, I think, really combined to show that like superhero movies have this, like cross-generational, cross-age, and just general like mass appeal movies. Mm-hmm. Like this is a new action
and remember
direction.
the Hulk first
Ang Lee's
Hulk live action movie? Oh my god.
This is a year that domestically Spider-Man had the highest box office, and this is a year with Harry Potter, Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings all have movies.
Those are like the hugest franchises ever.
Now it's a little bit tipped because I believe both Star Wars and Lord of the Rings were doing Christmas release. So they're like each movie's like half in each side of the year in the calendar,
right.
But it was still like one of the, even if you go like worldwide, it was like a top 4 worldwide box office movie, and it was incredibly successful. So shall we? Do you have any more opening thoughts or other things you want to just point out?
No, I think we can jump right into the performance test.
It was the performance of a lifetime.
And the first note I wrote down was, we just used to live in a civilized society where you could start your movie with a 3-minute credit sequence
and
with
not
nothing
lose
happening.
Yeah, not lose people's attention.
It was a simpler time. The one thing that you got to get past watching this movie, I think, is the 28-year-old Spider-Man and all these like mid-20s aged high schoolers in big air quotes. Because as soon as you see Tobey Maguire like waving down the school bus, you're like, Jesus Christ, who is this old man trying to get on the school bus?
Hurry, save the children, please.
The area predator wants on the bus. Don't let him in. And then you pan over and you see like Kirsten Dunst sitting there and you're like, wait a minute.
She's got like a fucking boob job.
You're at least 25, and so is your boyfriend. Or like, it's so funny when they go to the on the like science fair mission where they go their science fair, like the class
field trip.
The teacher is indecipherable from the students.
Yeah, I thought he was a student at first. I always thought he was a student. I was like, why is he telling these kids or these other teenagers what to do? Like,
they needed to cast an old man because this guy's also like 30 years old, and they all just look the same age. I'm like, why is he so bossy?
And he was like clean cut and bald head, and he just looked real young and clean. I was like, what the heck?
He looked like a fourth-year high school teacher with a bunch of like super seniors.
But then you have the flip side of that with Willem Dafoe, and he just always looks old. He's kind of like what's his face from Shawshank, Morgan Freeman. They just have been old our entire lives, you know. They just always look like
think
skeletons.
Jack Nicholson has a little bit of that. Even when he was young, he kind of looked old because he was balding. Yeah, for sure. Willem Dafoe. Now that you mention him, I mean, I think it's Willem Dafoe, and you're asking him to do this like melodramatic dual personalities part. Excellent.
Right.
Great casting.
One of the finest actors of our generation, for sure.
In short, ladies and gentlemen of the board, costs are down, revenues are up, and our stock has never been higher.
Wonderful news, Norman. Wonderful. As a matter of fact, it's the reason we're selling the company.
What?
Yes, Quest Aerospace is recapitalizing in the wake of the bombing. Expanding. They made a tender offer we can't ignore.
Why wasn't I told?
The last thing they want is a power struggle with entrenched management.
The deal is off if you come with it. The board expects your resignation in 30 days.
But you can't do this to me. I started this company. You know how much I sacrificed?
And he just hams it up. And you know what? He kind of reminds me of Darth Sidious a little bit. Just like the acting chops that come with it, where it's like you're just hamming it up and you're just so like deliciously evil kind of thing. And I just noticed similarities between those two characters, and I think both actors nail those parts perfectly.
Sam Raimi loves to have someone talk into a mirror and then have that mirror talk back to them.
Yeah.
See also Evil Dead 2. See also, I'm pretty sure Alfred Molina does it in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dual personality stuff going on in Sam Raimi stuff.
A lot of interpersonal monologuing and
And this movie's not like outrightly funny on purpose a lot, but one line that really I don't know, it gave me a chuckle is right after Peter gets bit on the field trip and he comes home and Aunt May's like, why don't you sit down and eat some? And he goes, no thanks, had a bite.
Just goes completely over your head, but
because he did.
Which is like, you look at this compared to like the Marvel, the MCU movies, where like they're purposely trying to be funny, and usually they undercut a serious moment with a joke, you know, and it seems it obviously stands out more. And you can, some of the Marvel movies you can classify as actual comedies. I know like the first Spider-Man Homecoming is technically like a teen rom-com comedy kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, most Marvel movies live in that like, hey, isn't this crazy what's going on here? We're whip cracking. It's all from
Wink. Yeah.
What's his name? That Joss Whedon is known for his quippy dialogue, and that kind of infected Marvel throughout in post Avengers. But this doesn't really have that. Like, it does have some fun, but it is, like you said, it's more campy. It's more like heartfelt and genuine, and it's not so interested in kind of being like snappy and aren't we entertaining with these
Yeah.
characters all the
Yeah.
time?
And
Which
it
I-
doesn't completely take you out of the movie. And I think that's what a lot of the newer stuff does. It's like those jokes, especially when they're undercut by a serious moment, it's like it takes you out of the emotional elements of it, you know?
So we have Aunt May, and she's allegedly from New York, but doesn't she talk like this all the time?
Yeah, I always thought she was like foreign.
Is she like a British woman? I just think that's probably how Rosemary Harris, the actress, speaks, and they're like, she sounds nice.
Yeah.
She sounds like an aunt, but it's just funny when you compare her to Uncle Ben, who's like, get over here, I got some.
Hey, come on, Michelangelo, we gotta paint the kitchen.
Hey, with great power, what comes?
It comes hot dogs. And I'm walking in.
With great power, come the Yankees. You know what I'm saying?
And then Peter just has no New York qualities. You know, I almost wish Spider-Man had the New York accent. You know, I think it would add a little bit to his character.
I just kind of wish Tobey Maguire in this movie had a little more going on there.
Yeah.
He's a little bit of just a stick in the mud and like
wet bag of sand.
A wet bag of sand, and it's like no wonder Mary Jane doesn't fucking like you because you're just never speak to her and you're weird, okay? Yeah. And like that's relatable in the like teen sense, but it's also like I can't blame anyone for being annoyed or disliking you because you kind of suck.
Yeah.
Like you have no qualities. He's all like so wrapped up in his own mind and the life in his head, and there's like the scene where he's walking behind Mary Jane and you know she just left in the house like crying, and he has this like he plays the conversation out like in his head just behind her, like, hey Mary Jane, hey, how you doing? Well, why don't we talk together? Oh, I saw that happen back there. And then her friends pick her up and she speeds off as he just like watches in the dust, and it's like that's his character the whole movie.
Yeah, there's no real development. Like you would think he would gain a little bit more confidence, and he kind of does at the end when he kind of like not dismisses her but rejects her offer to kind of like build some type of romantic relationship, and he's like, you know, I have to put you first and protect you, so I'm not going to engage in this. And that's a little bit of character progression because before that the entire movie is like chasing after, you know. So
I just think it's a bad message. The guy that just kind of, it's like the verbal meme, the guy that stands in the corner and is saying, these guys don't know that I'm a super genius. Like, these guys don't know I'm Spider-Man.
Right.
Like, it's a bad, I think it's a bad influence on children to be like this guy.
Yeah.
He's a hero because he's sulky and weird.
He's sulky and weird, and he thinks he's doing the right thing constantly, or he's the good person.
Even when he's not.
Yeah.
His whole motivation to like embrace his powers is super shallow. He goes to the wrestling match to get money to buy a car to impress MJ because MJ's real boyfriend picked her up in a nice car, and he watches that and he's like, dang it, if I get a car, which again is like his character not getting it.
You know what kind of cracked me up was like when he's thinking about this, they have that little like fade frame that pops up. It is a car that goes past his head. It was just so goofy looking. And I was like, oh, he's thinking about buying a car. I didn't realize that, even though he's looking through a newspaper at cars.
Yeah, Sam Raimi loves like the like overlaid frames and the just bizarre editing choices.
Some kind of mistake. I didn't sign up for a cage match. Hey, unlock the thing. Take the chain off.
Hey, Freak Show! You're going nowhere! I got you for 3 minutes! 3 minutes of playtime!
I mean, we all know the Spider-Man plot. Uncle Ben dies. Spoiler.
I didn't know that.
He dies on the way nearby this boxing match, which has, again, a great scene with... Oh, no. Oh, no. Evil
wrestler.
Dead 2 guy. No.
Is he actually? I thought he was an actual wrestler.
No, he is an actual wrestler. Well, you're talking about Bonesaw.
Bonesaw. You're talking about
that's Randy Savage, but
You're talking about Ash Williams, man.
Yeah, I'm talking about Bruce Campbell. I didn't have to look it up. Finally came to me. But Bruce Campbell is the announcer, and then Bonesaw.
Bonesaw.
And I also love all the like ladies, like the ring ladies that are like, he's gonna kick your ass.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna eat you for dinner.
He got real kinky for a minute.
Bonesaw.
And you know, that's another aspect of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, that like he has little moments of like quips, because Spider-Man's known for being a quippy character and always talking shit in the heat of battle. And it's like for a little bit you get some of that in the wrestling fight where he's like, "Oh, that's a nice outfit. Did your husband get it for you?" Like that kind of stuff. And then you really don't ever see that again. Like you see it like little hints of it here and there, but he's not like always talking
This
shit. Like
movie,
he should.
well, he does a little more when he has like a random thug to beat up, but this movie's really in, once we get to the like the Green Goblin stuff, he's really into the melodrama of dealing with the Goblin and the Goblin being Norman Osborn, and all working all that out. It's a really melodramatic movie. It really is.
Yeah.
Especially as we get towards the end. But the most perfect casting in the history of the universe is J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
Absolutely.
He's my favorite character in all these movies.
He's literally taken right off the panels of a comic book. Like, he's the character, so perfectly.
Who is Spider-Man? He's a criminal, that's who he is. A vigilante, a public menace. What's he doing on my front page?
Mr. Jameson, your wife is on line 1. She needs to know if you...
Mr. Jameson, this is a page 6 problem. We have a page 1 problem. Shut up.
She just needs to know if you want the chintz or the chenille in the dining room.
Whichever one's cheaper. Sold out? Every copy. Tomorrow morning, Spider-Man, page 1 with a decent picture this time. Move Conway to page 7. There's a problem with page 7. And make it page 8 and give him 10% off. And make it 5%. That can't be done. Get out of here!
Mr. Jameson, Spider-Man.
Hoffman?
Yeah?
The archetype, like, I don't think me or you could even like mention a specific like movie or show that this archetype is from, this quippy news editor.
Yeah.
But like it's instantly recognizable. Everybody knows it, and you're like, that guy. Right. He's doing the thing, and it's hilarious. He's the funniest character in this movie.
Like, crap, mega crap. I'll give you $200 for it.
We're gonna pay $200 for just standing here.
Okay, so think about J. Jonah Jameson in this compared to Lawrence Fishburne in Man of Steel.
Yes.
Just, I mean, like how bland of a character Lawrence Fishburne was in the Man of Steel compared to J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah, where it's like they're technically the same character.
Yes.
But it's like, that's how you do that character. You don't make him kind of just like an asshole, but with no real comedic payoff.
What if everybody was just really gray and sad for the whole movie? Yeah. No matter what your job is, no matter where you stand in the totem pole of humanity.
I mean, that's pretty realistic in real life, I would say, in the workplace.
Oh my God. And then maybe we got to shout out James Franco as Harry Osborn. I mostly like his line because he's really just a rich prick in this movie, and MJ's really down because I believe her casting, her audition didn't go well.
Oh, yep.
Mm-hmm. And she's like crying, and Harry's like, "I'm gonna buy you something." No. It'll make you feel better.
Make you feel better. Yeah.
On the phone, like completely disconnected. I mean, like father, like son. He doesn't get love from daddy, so he doesn't know how to love himself.
And I really like that duality of like two brothers, kind of. I mean, Peter and Harry, where it's like you see that progress throughout the other films as well. It's like but then in the back of your mind, it's like he's still Spider-Man and kind of responsible for his dad's death, so they're gonna come at odds at some time. And I like that character development. I think they did a pretty good job until they didn't.
They didn't. I went on and I watched Spider-Man 2 actually, and I love. Yeah, it really does grow and pick up from there, and really like works on that end. And I think it also really shows like the nature versus nurture of like Peter grew up in a loving home, and they were not rich, but they were rich in like love and camaraderie and the things that you need to like grow a well-rounded human.
Right.
Even though maybe he's a little bit of a wetback sand.
Yeah.
He's good in his heart. And, you know, Norman Osborn, his line when he meets his girlfriend is, "They all want the same thing. Do what you got to do with her and leave her."
Yeah, that was really,
he says,
really harsh.
leaving Thanksgiving dinner in a huff. And that's when you really know Norman Osborn is a monster. It's not all the murders that he commits before this. It's when he's at Thanksgiving dinner and he tries to just finger the marshmallows off the candied yams.
And
put
then
them in
Aunt
his
May
mouth.
smacks him, and
Yeah.
then she's like, Norman? And then he's like, he just gives her this look like, bitch, I will throw a fucking pumpkin bomb at your ass right now.
You don't know what I'm capable of!
Do you know how much I've sacrificed?
And like only a real monster would try to do that. No table manners at all, you fucking
No, and
prick.
then he picks up the knife and the sharpener. He's just like sharpening the knife, looking real weird. I'm like, something's off with this guy. I wonder if he's the Green Goblin.
Do we have anything else to say about...
Let's talk about Kirsten Dunst for a second.
Okay, Kirsten Dunst. She is in this movie.
Yeah, she is.
I don't think I can't really blame her. She is not really
No.
given much to do, and she's so much damsel in distress stuff going on.
I don't think she's ever really been a great actress to begin with. I think the biggest movie she was in before this was like the Vampire Diary or what was it? Vampire's Assistant, Vampire's Diaries, or
something like that. I don't know.
Some with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise.
I just don't think you can blame her acting ability when her character doesn't make any fucking sense and she doesn't have a lot to do. So like she's like,
damsel in distress.
So a lot of the lines she has to give just like don't really like add up to like what a real human would feel.
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
Can't do this type of character anymore.
No.
Now she's got superpowers. She's got Thor's hammer.
She's got big biceps and she's empowered.
She doesn't need Spider-Man. Spider-Man needs her.
I mean, it's for the better. I'm glad that we put an end to damsel in distress. Nothing,
especially when you have a scene with her in the rain and you can see her like her nipples and shit. And like, we know what you're doing, guys. Come on,
Sam.
It got real rapey for a second, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna sexualize her during a rape scene or an attempted rape scene. It's like, ooh, come on, guys. It's kind of gross, you know.
Also, New York is just littered with goons waiting for someone to walk by the wrong alley and say, "Come here, get over here, come on."
And then be like out loud, they'd be like, "Hey, check it out, man."
You don't need spidey sense. You just need to be fucking observant.
Yo, check it out, man. Let's go mugger.
Let's do it in the alley.
Oh no, it's the Spider-Man. And they all wear black. That's how you know they're bad.
That's how you know they're bad, because they got big jackets.
They got big jackets and beanie caps on.
Yeah, shout out to all the extras. The great thing about Sam Raimi movies is the extra sequences. I'm talking about at the parade, when all the... Or in the boardroom. I love everybody in the boardroom when they kick Norman off the board.
Yeah.
He has an eye for just little bit parts and like small characters, and fitting, like I said, Bruce Campbell in as the wrestling ring officiate.
Right.
Like he just knows.
It's a character in itself. I mean, all these extras are.
Shout out to Octavia Spencer checking in Peter Parker at the wrestling desk.
Octavia Spencer.
Octavia Spencer has like 2 lines in this movie.
The guy who says...
Octavia Spencer is a lady. The lady that's in like Ma. I think she's in The Help.
Oh, yeah. Why did I not ever pick that up?
I think it's one of her first roles. And she
Okay.
has like 3 lines. She's the one that's like... There's no like weight classes or whatever. She's like trying to talk him out of signing up.
Because he's real small. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything is really New York, and that's what I love about this movie. There's just such a New York feel to it. I mean, obviously because it's set in New York, but like, especially with the extras and stuff, everybody's got the thick New York accents. I know the guy, Mary Jane, works at some diner, and the diner owner comes out and yells at her, and she's like, "Okay, Enrique, I get you." He's like, "Don't talk back to me, girl." Like, you know, he's got this real like, and he's big, fat dude, and he looks sloppy, and he's sweaty, and he's got an apron on. It's super New York.
Don't we get in the final in the bridge scene with the cable car and her? Don't we get the? It's New York. You mess with one of us.
You mess with all of us. And they're throwing bricks at him and shit.
Come on up here, dumb guy. I got a little something for you.
Kick your freaking ass!
Leave Spider-Man alone. You gonna pick on a guy trying to save a bunch of kids? one of us, you mess with all of us.
You know, really, we get literally like the trolley problem. The like, do we save one or all of them? And that really would have worked out if Green Goblin had like any execution on his plan whatsoever, because it seemed like really somebody should have died, but he's just fucking around, flying around, laughing.
Well, I mean, he was shooting fucking missiles at the bridge and stuff. I was like, dang, there's no collateral damage whatsoever. Like, I guess going back to, because I feel like we haven't really like did a deep dive into Green Goblin, because like there's a lot about his character. Like, he's just such a ham. And I think that's why it works somehow. Because like if you saw this character now in the MCU, you'd be like, this is too much. Because we're so used to the Thanos archetype, where it's like the conflicted villain, where he's not necessarily evil. He just has a different understanding of the world than other people do, or the universe, whatever. But this guy, he's just like, I'm evil, and that's all there is to my character, kind of thing. So I think that works for this type of film.
He is a lot of fun. And yeah, getting Willem Dafoe to do it.
Did you notice he was wearing foam?
Yeah.
Green foam posits?
I guess they were going to use a different suit, but Willem Dafoe wanted to do most of his own stunts, so they ended up doing like a lighter weight suit.
I heard they were going to do a rubber mask and actually have his mouth move and stuff. There's like concept art for it and everything.
Yeah, this suit is a little... Maybe we can get in the It's an Art Bro, but the suit's a little rough.
All right, let's get into It's an Art.
It's an Art Bro is where we talk about the specifics of the filmmaking process, like sets, effects, lighting, costuming. And what I was saying was the Green Goblin suit is a little rickety by today's standards.
Yes.
It's a rubber man in a suit. And I mean, it literally is a rubber man in a rubber suit. Like, it's both that in the universe and in the movie, you know?
He looks like a Power Rangers villain. Like, it's so bad. But I when I was younger, I never had a problem with it, and I thought it was kind of cool. Maybe it was just a sign of the times back then. Everybody was like kind of wearing, like, even with the X-Men, everybody had these really shiny, like really skin tight latex suits on for their costumes and stuff. And looking back on it, that shit is super cheesy now, but back then it was fine.
Did you notice that Norman Osborn's office is all a forest green because he is going to become the Green Goblin?
Oh my gosh.
It's
foreshadowing.
His life has all been building up to this moment where he says, fuck it, I can't lose the defense contract. Do the experiment on me.
And the gas is green. That makes him the Green Goblin.
And this movie is the first of it. We get a couple of these, I think, in every Spider-Man going forward, or in the next couple, is the slow-mo Spider-Man action sequence, which starts with the punch, the Spidey sense punch. But first it zooms out, and we zoom past like a fly in its wings beating, and somebody shooting like a spit wad across the room, and then it comes all the way back around. And that is the most like early 2000s, like The Matrix is still really cool.
Yeah.
Check out our digital camera work.
They love their slow motion.
And honestly, it's still, even though some of the effects don't look great by today's standards, it's still, I forgot about that scene, and I was like, oh yeah, this jumps out to me. Like, this is a really creative sequence to decide to do, even though it is a little cliche in its execution and like being like a time capsule.
Well, it also serves purpose because, I mean, Spider-Man's Spidey sense, he's technically slowing down time anyways when he's going through this power or whatever. So it works for his character, as well as just a artistic choice. So.
It's a precursor to the slow-mo sequence in X-Men, what we get with Quicksilver every Quicksilver sequence where he's just running through a slow-motion unfolding action sequence.
And I will say a lot of the web-slinging scenes are really impressive, especially for the time. You just get such a sense of momentum and even physics as well. And that's something I don't really get from the newer Spider-Man movies, is like, one, we don't really see him swinging around a whole lot. And then two, it's like, in these, you can tell they really took a lot of time to get the physics down of like what it would be like for a man to actually be swinging around kind of thing. And yeah, you just really feel that sense of speed and adrenaline when he's swinging around. And nice wide shots and of him. It's just a sense of scale because I mean the building's so large and he's so tiny when he's swinging. It's really cool visual.
I think that stuff is really what they sold the movie on in the trailers.
For sure.
And early on was the web swinging and just the kind of grand scope of it all. Because really in 2000, like that's still like not like new territory, but it is still like there's still some excitement in finding new effects,
right?
And like finding new ways to do action, like especially like a superhero action, in an effects driven way that's still kind of like groundbreaking and new, and they're still like feeling that stuff out.
Right.
Well, I don't think we'd really gotten a character quite as like detailed and as expressive in a digital form.
Maybe not since Iron Man.
Well, I just mean up to that point, except for maybe like Gollum, but Gollum's like a full character, but like in the like he maintains his character even in his action sequences because they're like the physicality feels like it's got character to it. You know what I'm saying? Like he moves like Spider-Man, he moves like Peter Parker, and it's not just like it's not T2, just like Silver Guy marches towards you or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Right. For sure.
This movie moves pretty quickly, but it's also like not as action packed as I even think in my memory.
Yeah.
Like Peter gets powers and he's scaling walls by like 25 minutes in.
Yeah.
And there's little like action sprinkled throughout, but by like modern standards, it's not a lot of action, which I don't mind.
But I think it has great pacing though. You rarely get bored in this movie, even during a lot of the dialogue parts. Because most of the dialogue serves a purpose for the characters, and so you don't really notice it as much. And so it's not like you're anticipating an action scene, but it kind of just flows into the next scene and stuff. So I didn't really mind it at all, and I think it has great pacing.
The only other thing I really want to mention for It's an Art Bro is just Sam Raimi. The way he runs the camera is very unique. We kind of alluded to it before, but he loves like zooming in on faces. He loves a very like active camera style where it's making a lot of moves, and it just adds a lot of character to every scene.
He loves people screaming in the camera.
Yes,
that's something I noticed as well.
Oh yeah, like a zoom in to like the person's mouth as they scream.
See their fucking tonsils. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Maybe that's his kink. Maybe, Tarantino's got feet. He likes the little dangly thing at the back of your throat, whatever you call that.
I don't want to think about that.
I don't know. I don't have much else for It's an Art Bro.
This movie is very colorful. I'll say that, especially for the time, because I think the early 2000s, well, I can't even say that. I think there was a lot of, I think once we got into the 2010s, that's when the colors started getting muted in the film because everything was transferring digitally. And so the colors didn't pop as well. But I think this movie was very colorful, and it was like, I think it took place mostly during fall. And, you get the color from the trees, and then you get all the signs and stuff from the city. Everything just feels so like, you just look at a frame of this and it's like, oh, that's in New York kind of thing. And so I really appreciated that. Going back to what I was saying, how this just feels so New York, like even all the extras are like characters in themselves, and it just really draws to the whole feeling of the movie. And this movie really gives me like a nostalgic feel whenever I watch it. And so it's cool because I can look at a frame from this and know exactly what I'm watching.
It does certainly have like that sunshiny, zippy, like it all folds together into the feeling that you are with the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in a old comic setting.
Right.
In the old New York type of deal.
And it's not dour and miserable, which is cool with me.
It's quite the opposite. It tries to do its best to be zippy and fun, except for some really melodrama stuff with kind of the love triangle and with really Harry and Norman and Peter and how all that. But it's not like dour in the classic, like not the classic, the very current like edgy Euphoria is always my touchdown, but God. Just like being grim with teenagers type of way.
Yeah.
Nobody has like drug problems.
That would definitely be in the Spider-Man of today. Like Ned has a fucking opiate addiction. So I guess I can segue us into Let the Hate Flow Through.
Actually, before Let the Hate Flow Through, let's do some alternate titles.
All right.
You okay?
I'll do mine.
I'll sandwich it. So here's my first one.
Okay.
Super Duper Senior Man, because Spider-Man is 28.
All right. Spidey Blue Balls.
Dude, we're on the same wavelength. My other one is Spider Cuck.
Andrew Tate would not approve of you, Tobey Maguire.
If your girl's got a body count higher than 0.5, kick her to the curb. She's not pleasuring you 24/7. Kick her to the curb.
She doesn't appreciate the Spider-Man that you really are.
Kick her to the curb. All right, let's move on to Let the Hate Flow Through You. This is where we air out our annoyances and our complaints.
Good. Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
And I gotta say, the love triangle bullshit and just the general love, like nobody in this movie, but based on the way they're acting, should love each other, is really what it is.
No.
It seemed unneeded in a very, like, maybe sign of the times, like we need this to give our mass appeal. Maybe we can bring some ladies in to get into this love triangle thing. But it's just like, Harry's an asshole. MJ doesn't have much of a character at all, and she's just kind of flip-flopping between everyone with like no real foresight.
Right.
And Peter is just spider cuck. Like he doesn't give any. There's no reason MJ should love him.
Well, and I think this also was in the comics as well, where it's like Spider-Man or Peter Parker and Mary Jane have always had issues with each other, and they could never quite get it right. And I think even Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in No Way Home actually kind of alluded to they were still going through problems, and they're like both 45. So it's kind of like, why are you still with each other? It's just a toxic relationship at this point. In the words of Andrew Tate, kick her to the curb, bro. You know, like it's not worth it. It's really not.
So, and in the way it gets advanced, I've like really hit a nerve with me for being annoying. So we get like plenty of scenes where like Toby either wants to talk to her and maybe talks to her a little bit, but doesn't really let her know how she feels. I'm thinking especially the scene before she leaves in the car where they're talking in the backyard. He's bringing the trash out and they're kind of just talking about what they want to do with their lives in the future. Yeah. But then Toby doesn't really open up. She skirts off to be with her real boyfriend, and we're kind of back to square one. At some point she starts dating Harry, and Harry's like, you never made a move, so whatever. Like, it is what, like...
And he's got a point.
He's got a point. Like, you've lived next door to her your entire childhood.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make this happen, you're a fucking senior. Like, put it together.
Yeah.
You know? And so that goes on for a while. And then they're in the hospital. Is Aunt May in the hospital? Because Goblin kidnapped her. And they're having a talk. And they're getting a little close, but nothing's happened. And Peter's holding MJ's hand, and Harry walks in, and he's like, and he just like leaves in a huff, and he's like just assumes they're in love, despite like an entire childhood's evidence to the contrary. That,
right,
like,
and also his aunt is in fucking in the hospital.
Like, of course they're gonna be consoling each other.
Yeah, she's gonna be sympathetic of it.
Yeah,
the situation. Like,
so he's a total prick. He and that's when he goes back and meets Norman and says something about,
he was like you were right about her the whole time.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, he gives up on MJ and that she's really in love with Peter is what she says. And I'm like, how do you know? You just saw them holding hands for 5 seconds.
Yeah. And I can forget. I mean, it's not the biggest issue ever, but it's definitely irritating.
It's just and then it wraps up with Norman Osborn's funeral, and then MJ decides, this is where I'm going to confess my love to Peter Parker at Norman Osborn's funeral. That's quite a move.
Yeah, she's just got terrible timing.
Terrible timing, like no taste. Like, your ex-boyfriend who's mad at you right now, his dad just died, and you're gonna try to get together with his best friend at his dad's funeral.
Yeah. It's like, this girl's kind of trash.
Like, when you really lay it out, it's fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, like, she's got a really trailer trashy home life as well. And it's like, I mean, I see why.
But I think we're being smarter than the movie when you say something like I think we're not supposed to think about that and think that it's...
Oh, shit.
And, you know, think that it's sweet and that, oh, Toby's really doing the good thing by rejecting her right now. But he should reject her just on the status of, like, bitch, are you for real? Like, you're going to do this right here, right now?
Homies over hoes, man, at that point.
That's a great line from Joe versus a Volcano. He's like, I love you, but the timing sucks.
Yeah. But Toby's Spider-Man showed some real alpha qualities in that scene where he rejected her advances.
He finally stood up for himself and lied about how he really felt. To be a hero, I guess.
Who am I? I'm Spider-Man. That was a pretty good line. Yeah. We didn't talk about the music.
It ends in the montage. And yes, what do you want to say about the music?
The music is awesome. John Williams, right?
Is it? No, isn't it, what's his name? The guy that does all the Tim Burton ones. Am I making that up?
Oh, Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman music.
Yeah.
Slaps.
Yeah, it's a banger. The, like, how does it go? The dun, 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 dun. No, that's Star Wars.
They're all Star Wars.
Yeah, honestly. But whenever he's like running, or I'm thinking about the scene when he's going for revenge for Uncle Ben's murder, and he's like running through the alley, and he's taking his shirt off, and he's got his suit underneath, and then the music is just like that thumping or whatever, and he's just running, and there's so much adrenaline to it. Super awesome.
One thing I also forgot to mention, shout out to Sam Raimi montages, especially montages involving newspapers. Doing the little spin and then fall, and you read the headline. We get about 4 of them, and they come back in Spider-Man 2 and into the future. So should we move on to our final question? And then I think we're going to do a bonus review, a bonus mini review at the end, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the final question is, Kalen, is this a perfect movie?
You lost a baby brother. Perfect in every way.
I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother. And he was perfect. Perfect in every way.
When I was 7, I would have said yes. Now that I'm an adult and I can watch this as an adult, it is not as good as I remember it to be. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It is a lot of fun. It's probably one of the better superhero movies. I really love the campy aspect of this film. And just how it doesn't take itself completely seriously, but it's able to have fun, but also have these serious moments as well. And I'm thinking about the final scene where he's beating the shit out of Green Goblin, or Green Goblin's beating the shit out of him too. It was like, damn, this shit is violent, really violent.
It ends with our villain getting impaled.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, they're able to do this and it works still. You know, it's not like, oh, it's super fun, happy, and fuck is this violent ass shit. It actually, all the action in this is pretty violent.
And while we shit on New Marvel, I will say Norman Osborn's, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin returning in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes.
Really was a great turn for that character. I think even more than, you saw a lot of Doc Ock in the trailers, but it was really the Green Goblin Returns movie, and it's smart.
He was like a pure psychopath in that.
Smart decision. Well, it's funny because at the end of this, you really see that he's forever the Goblin.
Yeah.
The Goblin has taken over. The duality is pretty much gone from this man.
Right.
Because even in his dying moments, he's
conniving and
yeah.
Yeah.
He's still conniving and evil. I agree. I thought I was going to have to fight you about this. I really think, because I watched Spider-Man 2 after this, I think Spider-Man 2 might be the one.
Is the superior movie.
Is the superior movie.
For sure.
It feels like Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. This is the proof of concept, but the edges are a little rough.
The whole subplot of Spider-Man losing his powers and having to deal with that, and then slowly gaining those back. And then also Dr. Octopus is awesome.
Much better action, much more like I think. What's name a better slow-mo shot? Is it Spider-Man doing backflips, dodging the rings, the pumpkin rings,
The little blades, yeah.
or is it Spider-Man rescuing Kirsten Dunst from the sedan that gets thrown through the cafe window by Doc Ock?
I think that was the better scene for sure.
That's a great use of the Spider-Man Spidey sense, because you don't get the slow-mo, but we just get his hair going up.
Right. And you weren't expecting it either because he lost his powers.
And it's in the middle of this
cafe, yeah.
It's in the middle of this scene where they're really having a real emotional moment, and you're like, anyways, we can do that during the Spider-Man 2 review, but I just watched Spider-Man 2. I was like, yeah, this is the fucking one. And we get way more J. Jonah Jameson, my favorite character.
He's the best.
Because Mary Jane's going to marry J. Jonah Jameson's son. I forgot all about that.
Oh, the astronaut. Yeah.
He's like, and Mary Jane doesn't show up, and he's like, tell the caterer don't open the caviar.
I will say though, Spider-Man 2002 does hold a very special place in my heart. It is one of the first movies to really like boost my interest in superheroes, and now that I'm older, I kind of think superheroes are very silly. It's unfortunate, but I'm old now. It just doesn't hold the same weight as it used to.
What? You're not a man still clinging to your childish things? My favorite things when I was a kid are still my favorite things.
When I became
forever.
A man, when I became
I
a man,
want to watch Ghostbusters Afterlife.
When I became a man, I put those childish things beside me.
Except for Star Wars.
Except for Star Wars. I still get angry about Star Wars, but I feel like my anger is justified for Star Wars. So,
we are who we've
chosen to be.
Yeah. No, you are who you... Wait,
you are who you choose to be.
You've become who you've sworn to destroy, or whatever the fuck.
Oh, no, you are who you choose to be is what Norman Osborn said in Spider-Man.
Oh,
You're thinking about the Star Wars quote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
we're both kind of there today.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
So not a perfect movie.
No.
That's fine. It's a good one.
But it's in the realm of great movies, and I want to really emphasize that, because this movie is kind of the one that really started it all. There would be no Iron Man without Spider-Man, and there would be no Avengers without Spider-Man, without X-Men, and even without Blade as well. I mean, these movies really cemented these characters into pop culture, and I think even before that, yes, Spider-Man was kind of a household name, but he wasn't like in the same realm as like Batman, you know what I mean? Where Batman was like the biggest shit ever because of the Tim Burton movies. And this one really cemented that for Spider-Man in pop culture and just like his place within the realm of media and Hollywood and everything. And now there's a billion fucking movies about Spider-Man.
We already have one on the perfect movie list. We've already reviewed one, and there's a new one coming out like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and this is another thing too about, and going back to Spider-Verse, where I think superhero this genre translates better to animation, because when you throw the whole campy aspect of like in live action and people wearing these goofy ass costumes and stuff, it really can either take you out of the experience or just like completely fall flat on its face. But when you have animation, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do, and it works because that's the world that you've made for it. Yeah.
So, Spider-Man 2002, highly recommended. A very high-quality superhero film in the upper echelon of superhero films in history, but not in the very highest tier.
No.
Just a step below, but in the highly recommended. And great fun for for the whole family, for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's a certified hood classic, if you ask me.
Put the drop on.
This is a certified hood classic.
All right, so this is going to be more off the cuff. I don't really have any. And Kaylin went and watched Evil Dead Rise a couple weeks ago, soon after it released. We figured we're doing a Sam Raimi movie. This is a Sam Raimi series. So let's talk about it. We went to a screening that was very dim and had small children in it. And we still had a hell of a time. Do you agree, Kalen?
I agree. This movie kicked ass.
Actually, Kalen walked out of the movie kind of shell-shocked. He was like, I don't know about that one. He was like, I was like, this was pretty fucking good, I think. And he was like, it's kind of long.
I had to process it. And when I got home, I texted you and I was like, you know what? That movie was pretty fucking awesome. And it did what it came to do. And I'm not mad at it for it.
You know what I love about this movie is because it's so fucked up and mean.
Yeah. You know what I love about this movie? It's really about family.
It is really about family. And that's what's important about it.
It was about family. It was a movie for the whole family.
So here's the thing. Evil Dead Rise is normally Evil Dead occurs in a cabin in the woods. And in Evil Dead, well, or Evil Dead 2 a little less so. But certainly in the Evil Dead remake, and it's generally just a horror trope, is you collect all these characters in the cabin in the woods, and you either make them paper thin, barely characters that you can just off for whatever reason, and watch them, lady takes her top off and she dies.
And they all have their specific trope as well, where it's like the virgin, the slut, the jock, the nerd, that kind of thing.
That kind of thing, or you make them really like unlikable characters, so when they die, you don't really feel bad.
Bunch of deadbeat stoners.
Or they like go and they fucked with something they shouldn't have fucked with.
Right.
So, they get what they get.
Yeah.
This movie kind of twists that on its head, and it's like, these people were just at home. Now, Buddy does take the book, and he does read it. But also, like, it was in the garage basement. Like, there's an earthquake where they live. There's an earthquake. They're in the garage. It opens a sinkhole. He goes down. He finds the Book of the Dead. He brings it back to the apartment.
And they're also kids, which is, like, shocking.
There's, like, an 8-year-old and a couple teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah, and all these kids are going to need some heavy therapy after this movie.
The actors, you mean?
The actors, yes. The actors. The kid actors in this.
So, and it also, yes, throws away the horror trope where, like, oh, the kids will survive. Like, they got to be safe because they're teens.
Right.
And they're not teens in the, like, summer camp where actually 25-year-old actors pretending to be teens. These are actual, like, relatable teens. They're well written. Right. They each have their own little tics. We have like social justice, short hair girl. We have DJ boy, and we have baby sister.
Yeah,
and they're not super like laid out characters, but you get what they're about, and they're likable enough as you meet them. Same for there's the single mother whose husband or boyfriend recently left, the father of the kids.
He left for whatever reason.
Yeah, it never really touched on. And then we have like burnout sister that thinks she might be pregnant, and she's
a rocker.
Yeah, and she's having a bit of a, she's having a tough time, so she goes unannounced to go visit her sister, who lives in this rundown apartment complex that apparently is the Book of the Dead in the basement. A little boy brings back the Book of the Dead, and then, as you know, Evil Dead, Deadites come. It first takes over the mother.
Yes.
And it's just... And, like, that's what I mean. It's, like, fucked up and mean, and that's what's kind of great about it. Because, like, they didn't deserve this, but there's so much glee and, like, just gruesome shit happening towards them, and it's, like, unstoppable, and they didn't deserve it, and you're just watching it like, fuck.
Yeah, it's, like, it's such an unrelenting force, and it's like, if I was in this situation, I would just jump out the fucking window. There's nothing you can do about it. It's, like, especially with... And again, like what you were saying was like the aspect that you love about it. It was like a mother turning on her children. That's every child's biggest fear, is rejection from their parents.
There's a line in the trailer, which I'm going to cut in. That's I had a dream where I would cut each of you open and lived inside your body so we could all be
one big happy family. Or the free from all you titty-sucking parasites.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So... It's their little mother turning into a monster before their eyes and trying to kill them. And while she's killing them, she wants to like emotionally destroy them. And just the Deadites want to create as much chaos and disarray as they possibly can.
What's up, sis? I had the most beautiful dream. We were together sitting in a tall forest. The wind was clean and the birds were singing the sweetest melodies. It was the perfect day And all I could think about was how much I wanted to cut you all open and climb inside your body so that we could stay one happy family.
And I know we brushed over this a little bit, but I think it's absolutely insane that somebody brought their small children to see this movie.
It is the goriest thing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And
also
it's
very highly disturbing.
And not like Evil Dead 2 was gory, but it was slapstick. There is some very dark comedy in this, but it is very gruesome.
Just so mean-spirited.
And just... it's just people getting the shit beat out of them for...
Yeah. And so to bring your children to see this movie is very unresponsible.
They're going to be scarred.
Or irresponsible.
Yeah. Whatever it is, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I just thought that was absolutely insane.
I'm just glad the baby shut the fuck up after the first couple minutes because I was going to say
well,
something.
I don't blame him that he did shut the fuck up. He was probably fucking traumatized watching this shit. Like, come on, bro. Anyways.
I'm going to watch this movie again once it stopped being $20.
Yeah, I might even buy it, to be honest. I need to see this in crispy ass fucking Blu-ray because that was one thing that we noticed watching this in theater. It was very hard to see.
And I think our projection was unusually dim to begin with.
Yeah.
So it was just a bad projection. We maybe shouldn't go back to Rosedale AMC.
Yeah, shout out them. Not.
And this was like their premiere theater. It was like the Dolby Theater.
Yeah, yeah. I think that just goes back to why theaters are dying. Nobody wants to watch it.
And probably nobody knows how to fix
quality.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, so your initial, like, you came out of this right away kind of loving it.
I
right?
definitely liked it. I marinated more and decided I really, really liked it. But I was like, yeah, that was effective. I like the change of scenery. It was just, tense scene after tense scene after, lots of great setups.
And it's definitely the best Evil Dead since Evil Dead 2. It's funny because me and you just watched Evil Dead 2013.
And I didn't particularly like it.
No, and I think it was a lot gorier than this one. And maybe a little bit more disturbing. I think they did some things that were just kind of unnecessary. Like, there was a scene where the girl was, like, getting possessed and she peed on herself. Like, I don't want to see that. That's gross.
That one was mean, but it was also, like... It was just so blunt, and the characters were not that likable, so tortured, instead of being like, I was kind of like, just fucking do it to him. Like, and just let it end. Like, I don't like any of these people, so I don't particularly care. Whereas this one, I liked all the characters, and I didn't like bad things happening to them. Or at least I cared when they did.
I will say I got chills in the shot of the 2013 movie where it's raining blood, and she's, like, putting a chainsaw on the demon's face. That whole wide shot is so awesome. But yeah, Evil Dead 2023, super, super cool movie. If you are into this genre, if you like Evil Dead, you'll really love this one. Yeah, I think the performances were great. Do you want to go by segments, or should we just kind of...
I think we can just do whatever we want, be loosey-goosey.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about how it was shot, because I think this movie is really good to look at. It's really nice on the eyes. It's very dark, but at the same time, you have these like little pops of color here and there. And just the overall vibe of the creepiness of the demons is really like prevalent, and you can really feel the fear of a scene and like what these people are going through. Specifically with the bathroom scene, when they put her in the tub and she's like slowly getting possessed and her eyes roll back, and then she falls back in the tub, and then she comes up and she just kind of peeks her head up and just looks at him and she smiles, and then the girl is like, "Mom?" And she's like, "Mommy's with the maggots now."
Mommy's with the maggots.
That shit gave me fucking chills, man.
They use that so often in the trailers, but it still sticks with me. I think it's interesting that there's like 4 segments in here that I think are already in the canon of like great Evil Dead sequences, which I don't think 2013 Evil Dead really had any of those. You're right, the blood rain part was the best part of it, and I do remember the nail gun sequence, but I didn't like... None of those really stand up to the peephole sequence, which I think is the standout, where we watch Mama Deadite just wreck everybody that's left on this floor through a peephole. And it's really like, that has some of the comical energy. That's also the scene where the dude gets his eye ripped out, she spits it, and then the other dude chokes on it.
It's a little out of place. A little out of place.
I'm pretty sure that's an Evil Dead 2 reference.
It is
something that happens in it.
But to kind of throw that in there as like a little wink wink, I mean, it's fine, but it also is you didn't really set up the comedic aspects of this. It was kind of played straight the entire movie. And so when you get this hyper violent scene and then she chews some guy's eyeball out and spits it into another guy's mouth and he chokes to death and dies.
Like a child.
Yeah, a child.
A child.
Mind you, a child. It's a little like out of left field, and I laughed out loud when I saw that.
Like I said, I think it's funny, but it's only in like the pitch black. Like, we're not weaking at you. It's not Ash revving the chainsaw and being like, "Get over here, you fuckers," you know?
Yeah.
It's like just the grimmest. It's the mommies with the maggots. It's the like. I'm thinking specifically at the very end when I don't want to spoil it, but there's like a final monster form, and how that gets ended, how that all wraps up is like darkly comedic in just how obscenely bloody and just gross
at
it is.
one point, they grabbed the little girl's legs and were about to saw her in half with one of the rotating blades in the what was it, the wood chipper?
Mm-hmm.
That shit was like, whoa, they're really going there with these kids thing. And you don't see a lot of kid deaths in horror films. But I do think about Halloween Kills when that kid fell down the stairs. It's kind of hilarious.
It was really funny.
Yeah, man, but the way it's shot, and I get chills in the scene where the Deadite monster takes the little girl and it's dragging her away, and so the aunt is like freaking out and she's trying to open up this gate and she's just covered in blood, and then she runs after her, and it's like a fixed camera onto her face as she's running, and she's just like, you could just see the adrenaline going in her face, and she's just like, it seems like she's going insane as well. Shit gave me chills. Just mind-blowing, some of the stuff they did in this movie.
And as far as acting, Alyssa Sutherland as the mama Deadite, who's the first one to get taken over, is really great in the Deadite role especially, but in both roles. Several characters, without spoiling it, that get to do both roles as the Deadites slowly take over the population of this apartment, and all of them are really incredible. And
Dead by Dawn.
It's just pitch perfect in both performance and, like you said, like it's not a Sam Raimi ripoff, but this is another director that seems to have like a really active camera and like just really inventive
seems
framing.
Very, very competent in what he does.
Like, I don't even know the word to fully describe it, but in the scene where she's making eggs, where there's like half of them are bloody and she's just slapping them on the plate, there's like a perspective focus thing where she's fully in focus and then it's ghosted in the middle, and then the group looking through the doorways are fully in focus. Like, there's a special lens where the focus is like, I think it's a really soft focus.
Sure they didn't do that in post?
I mean, maybe they did, but you know, it's focused but equally on the two different distances, and then everything between it is warped.
Very
and it's just like we do get our fun play early on, our fun play on the Sam Raimi camera in the woods, the Deadite spirit, but turns out, oh, it's a drone, and then how that drone is used later is really fucked up.
Yeah. I will say I wish the kills were a little bit more creative. I think they kind of hyped up the cheese grater scene in the trailers, and it didn't really pay off as like I thought it would in the movie. She kind of just got a little scratch, and then she was fine after that. I thought they could have did a little bit more.
I think but
then again, there weren't that many characters to kill in the first place.
There's not a lot of characters to kill. A lot of them get off in the hallway scene, and overall, I think people just latch onto the cheese grater scene because it's one of those things that like you can feel.
Yeah.
You can like feel in your mind's eye.
Yeah, it's a sensory thing.
It's really close to home. You've all used a cheese grater and thought like, oh no, what if my finger slips?
Yeah.
Another great cheese grater scene is in the movie Tenet. John David Washington beats the shit out of a man with a cheese grater in the back of a...
I never finished that movie.
It doesn't make any sense. But I do kind of really love it. I don't know why. Anyways.
Yeah, I want to go back to Mama Deadeye because I feel like her performance, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. From a lot of the stuff I've read, either they gloss over it or they just kind of like, they mention it, whatever. I think, this is why I wish horror was recognized at the Oscars, because I think she deserves some type of award for her performance. She was so awesome, and she just totally like put herself into this character completely and just gave it her all. And
it's a very physical performance too,
for sure,
because she has to change her posture and just the way she's moving
and contort and all that kind of stuff,
and gotta wear all this makeup. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but speaking of dual roles, like Willem Dafoe and the Goblin, like I don't know, I feel like this is even better. Not to, Willem Dafoe is one of the greatest ever, but like this is quite a performance in a dual capacity
for sure.
I also think the Burnout sister is a really, like, she's a good stand-in character. She doesn't have a lot to her, but she is likable, and there's a little bit of like Aliens, Ripley, and that one child vibes.
Yeah.
At the end, when little sister, she's trying to keep the little sister safe.
Yeah, I really like that.
And just the way she really transforms in the basement into just like, fuck this! I'm fucking ending this! Like,
right.
you love to see her, like, finally just put her foot down.
I love any horror movie where it's like the hero, the characters that you're following who are victimizing at tables. I love that aspect. There's also a lot of nods to other horror movies in this. Obviously, the elevator scene with The Shining. There's a few other things in the apartment as well. I don't know if the peephole is a reference to anything, but it looked familiar. Like I've seen that kind of scene before in a horror movie.
I don't know. I think there's a Halloween scene with a character under a sheet.
Yeah, that was definitely reminiscent to the original Halloween, where the Michael Myers puts a sheet on, pretends to be the boyfriend. I think I need to watch this again, but I want to say this is one of my favorite horror movies ever. I want to watch this again, and I want to see it in full HD glory to really appreciate every scene.
See it in like a reasonable brightness level.
Yeah.
So you can fucking see anything, because their apartment is already dingy and dark. It's classic horror movie set dressing where, it's supposed to be an old decrepit building, so there's a little bit of like, this makes sense, but like all the hall lights are flickery.
Yeah.
There's like no fucking lights on in the apartment ever. Like,
right.
The movie instantly becomes less scary once there's fluorescence in the ceiling, but there's not.
Right. I remember did you watch the RLM review for this?
Yeah.
So they were mentioning like it would maybe be more effective to have it in like a modern apartment setting. And I think I kind of agree with that statement, where it's like you're not purposely making the environment scary. Whereas like you think about the Conjuring movies and everything, all those movies are like set in a like old colonial house, and it already looks fucking scary, like a haunted house to begin with. And so you're kind of expecting things to go off the rails, you know what I mean?
I think that would be an interesting twist and something maybe they could do in the future if they continue making like Evil Dead sort of like anthology films where we're changing the setting, and maybe there's like what is it? There's this movie called like the Belko Experiment, which were like a bunch of people murdering people in an office. Like that would be a good setting for that, but we'll say I didn't need it. I don't really find that to be like a negative for this film. I think the tone it really hits is very like Hellraiser reboot, like Green Room.
Yeah.
Like these are kind of grungy alt-whites that, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
For
Where
sure.
they're alternative family structure. The kids are a little punky, and it's a great vibe for this type of movie.
I actually had some ideas for like future sequels and like settings.
Alt-whites, not alt-rights. They were not racist. They just had weird interest in funny haircuts.
Yeah. Yeah. They definitely look like they go to the hipster pubs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had a few ideas like after watching this for like some future sequels, because I love the aspect of Evil Dead that it's not like a continuated story, at least not the newer ones.
You need the core characters to have a little bit to them, so when the Deadites start taunting them and harassing them, that's where some of the funny stuff is, but also it's usually funny because it's like so mean and cruel.
Yeah.
Or so over the top, whatever they're saying, like you said, like sick of all you titty sucking parasites or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff where it's just like, oh Jesus, they said that?
Yeah.
To your kid?
Yeah, and so I think from that aspect that's why this movie works so well. And But I'm really excited to see what they do going forward, especially if this director keeps making or keeps it up with Evil Dead. Maybe they'll do a thing where they just change directors every movie. It's kind of hard for me because when I find a director that I like to just stick to his films, and I like them to stick to the franchise that they're in. So that's when you get kind of messy, is when you keep bringing all these new directors in to film a franchise.
I don't know if I have any hope or expectations for like Evil Dead moving forward. Like hopefully, like they did up and coming director before for the 2013 one. That's kind of the same thing they did with this one. He has like one movie called, I think, The Hole in the Ground, which I might check out sometime.
I heard was pretty good.
Yeah, I might check that out sometime. I mean, it's clear he has a very good sense of just creating place and like a setting with the camera and lighting and all that. So it could translate to something other than Evil Dead. But I don't like, the next one could be cool. It could not be cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't
keep your expectations low.
I don't necessarily even need another Evil Dead. Maybe wait 10 more years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I just want to see new ideas. And this is why I'm so excited about, and it's unfortunate because we're in this time right now where the writers are on strike and they're not getting paid for their work, and obviously they're disgruntled about it, and I hope that changes in the future, because I just feel like right now we're in like a renaissance of film. And I feel like we're getting such original and interesting ideas from these really talented directors. And because, I mean, honestly, this whole year has been chock full of bangers, honestly, of just like weird and interesting movies. Like I hear Beau is Afraid is like really interesting, and and that's the director of Hereditary and Midsommar, and I'm really interested to watch that because the reviews are split. It's like the critics are split about it, and even the audience are split about it, and that's when I'm like, okay, maybe this movie has something about it.
Yeah, split opinion usually means an interesting movie, even if it's not good. It's
right.
Interesting. It's when everybody's straight down the middle, like 3 out of 5 stars, which often happens with like the Marvel movies or a lot of like mainstream action or whatever. It's like, that's fine, it doesn't hurt you, and that's like the movies that I can skip, the ones that are like, it's inoffensive and it didn't waste my time.
Right, and it catered to everyone, that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people are getting that Marvel fatigue, where people are getting tired of the same formula. It's being used for everything. I mean, it's in Star Wars, it's in a lot of our television shows now, and I think like now that these directors seem to have a platform, they seem to have a way in where they have some type of creative control over what they're doing. That's when we get the best stuff. And like that's why I'm so excited for this era of film. But unfortunately, some dumb shit's always got to happen, and people got to fuck it up for everybody. You know what I mean?
And people will just watch what they know.
Yeah.
Not everybody is down for a 3-hour like. Beau is Afraid is listed as a horror comedy, but so box office is not great for that movie, and it was like the biggest A24 movie ever. Like, it's interesting that somebody got to make it, and I'm glad he did, but I also think like nobody's gonna watch it, and they're not gonna give somebody $35 million at A24 again for a while, you know?
But I mean, thank God for streaming too, where it's like we can have access to this stuff without having to go to the theater. And I think I don't understand why I know they need a return, but I wish it was like we would just be done with theater, to be honest, and we could just move everything to streaming, and people can watch what they want to watch, and it's not held down by total gross income. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, that's how the world works. You got to make money, otherwise you can't do these kind of things. So I understand, but I just love when the director gets a chance to fully realize his vision. And because that doesn't happen a whole lot. And so when the director gets that chance and you get something great, you can really appreciate it, and really appreciate it for what it is. And even though Evil Dead is tied to a larger franchise, each movie kind of does their own thing. They kind of have their own style to it, and that's what's great about this series.
Yeah, I agree. This was a great entry. It's a lot of fun. If you are not a horror fan or don't like gore, hard avoid, do not enter Evil Dead 2. But I mean, I feel like you should know by looking at any trailer or any marketing for it. If you like what you see, walk in there, watch it, because
Don't bring your kids.
Yeah, and do not bring any children under the age of like probably 14.
Yeah.
16, something like that.
Yeah.
Because it should get fucked up.
Yeah, for sure. I could just see like the picket lines for the hardcore Christians who hate this movie.
Dude, where's the like anti-demon stuff now? Now it's all about who's having like drag shows. What can we get back to being afraid of gore?
Yeah, can we get back to like this is damaging our children?
Can we get back to don't put this demon movie in my theater?
It's the controversy of the week kind of thing. You know?
Truly.
Yeah, so totally recommend Evil Dead. It's still in theaters, but also it is on streaming, but it's about $20 to rent right now. Actually, it's $20 to buy.
Yeah, it's in the like available at home.
Yeah, it should be on actual streaming soon. I'm sure HBO will probably pick it up or something. But yeah, definitely check it out if you can. It's a great time.
All right. Next episode, we will be doing Avengers Endgame as well as Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
I can't wait.
It is a movie. It was produced and released and has famous actors in it who seem to not know where they are.
Paul Rudd? I know who that is. He was in...
this Blue Room looks a lot like the last Blue Room I was in.
Wasn't he in 40-Year-Old Virgin?
He might have been. I mean, he was on all kinds of like Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, he was in a lot of comedies.
All kinds
he
of
should
shit.
probably should have stuck to comedies.
I don't
see
mind
him as the hero type.
I don't mind Paul Rudd, but this movie, Ant-Man, is a movie that Paul Rudd should not be leading.
Why are they giving all these side characters their own movies? Who the fuck cares about Ant-Man? He's the lamest fucking character.
It needs to be a movie about your friendly neighborhood Ant-Man, and no, it's like this is the galaxy-changing big villain reveal.
Jesus.
He's not the character for it, and it's not a good movie regardless.
Remember when we had Iron Man and Captain America?
Well, just wait. I'm sure they'll be back.
It's such a shame that about Chadwick Boseman. It's like that is just so awful.
It's true.
And it like that kind of changed the landscape as well.
Yeah, he was probably next up in the like
in the line to lead.
He had the same charm to me that Steve Rogers Captain America has, because they're not super quippy, but they're just earnest. And like he was more regal because he was like the King T'Challa.
Yeah.
But he didn't have that like Marvel, I'm snippy snappy all the time.
Yeah.
He was like a competent man that does shit and wants to do right.
He demanded respect from his peers. Like, yeah.
And then I come to watch a Chadwick Boseman interview, and I'm like, is this man actually from fucking Brooklyn or something?
Yeah, I always thought he was a British guy.
No, maybe it's just his name. Chadwick Boseman sounds like not a chip off the old block.
I
but
just think every actor is British.
All the good ones are. R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
I might watch a movie with him soon called 21 Bridges. I've been hearing some good things. It's
I've
older.
also heard about that, yeah.
He's like a NYPD guy. They're like, we're closing all the bridges so nobody can escape.
I didn't know you like crime stuff. You're usually not a crime movie guy.
I mean, not super, but it's also, I know it's not like 3 hours long like Heat or fucking Casino.
Speaking of, what I'm looking forward to is Killers of the Flower Moon. The trailer, boy, that's some cinematography. And I'm like, I'm there for it. I'll watch it for you because it's apparently about 4 hours long.
Yeah, you can let me know.
Yeah. But I love Scorsese anyways, so...
It says it's an Apple TV release. Does that mean it is going to just show up on Apple TV? Because I could probably watch it if I can just pause it and watch it in like 3 segments. But I think it's going in the theaters. Like it's a theatrical Apple TV production.
I was going to say it should be a theatrical release. I know Scorsese is like a big name. So, I don't know. What is Tarantino making anything? And is he doing one more movie? Is it another fucking Western?
I don't know. I think I've heard something about it, but I don't really remember.
I always wanted a sequel to Django. I know he doesn't really do sequels, but I mean Kill Bill. But I always wanted a part 2 to Django.
It wasn't really a sequel. It was a completion of a two-parter.
Yeah. But I would like a Django part 2. I think there's more to that story. But
it's called The Movie Critic. I'm gonna hate it.
The Movie Critic.
The Movie Critic is the new.
Well, anyways, we don't want to take up any more of you guys' time.
Or fucking our time.
Or our time as well.
All right.
We're just rambling.
We're just rambling. Watch Spider-Man or watch Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, or watch both.
Spider-Man with your kids and then stay up late. Watch Evil Dead Rise.
That's a great idea. Don't stay up too late though. You might get a little scared.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Till next time.